Hello again this afternoon. We have another panel here, but we are actually talking about the same topic. We can take a different angle or something. Maybe let's take it a little bit easier. So just to summarize, I want to say that just now, like half an hour before, we were talking about war and documentary filmmakers and what we can do in these circumstances when there is a war, and also thinking about what should be done and what is not done historically, and what we as filmmakers can contribute to this situation. And short summary, shortly, Orva Nirabia, which is ITFA's boss, and actually he's a refugee from Syria many years back, and he said, let's put all the concepts and all assumptions and all these history things aside. We should now concentrate on helping Ukrainians with everything we can, and we should film. And Audris came to conclusion that this poetic Aesop's language doesn't work in these circumstances. He cannot work. This is his style, how he's working always. And very pessimistic was Viktor Kasakovsky, who's in Berlin. And actually, I got a call yesterday from Elina Reiter, our film critic Latvian, who is living in Berlin, and she said that the context around is very saddening, because in this, at least this bubble where she is, or the surroundings, they're very pessimistic that Putin will win, and it's like almost constating the fact. And I was telling that we don't have this discourse here because this is life or death question. We cannot afford that. So here now we have gathered a little bit different company. There is 2 more people coming. They're running from the hotel because we are right now in a film festival, Artdocfest Riga. So there are different screenings and Q&As, and we have been questioning ourselves: do we have a right to have film festival here and see these different nice films and drink coffee and beer and everything while this war is going on? So several filmmakers have said that I don't want to. Actually, I didn't want to come. It's very hard to concentrate. So. But in any case, we have with us documentary film producer from Latvia, Uldis Zakulis. And thank you for coming. And we have Ilze Burkovska-Jakobsen, who is actually Latvian, but spent very many years in Norway, and actually became filmmaker there in Norway, and now is also having one foot there and one foot here, yes. And Trond Jakobsen, who is a filmmaker from Norway. You're both director and producer. Mm-hmm. And actually... also why I wanted to invite you, because you have this film, My Favorite War, which is actually a look upon the Soviet times from very long distance, let's say from 30 years distance. And we were also discussing today that we should film now, gather the material, but the distance later will be very valuable to see upon these things. Right now is very many emotions and stuff. And Audris Tonis, who especially came from Lithuania for these discussions. Thank you very much. And Lithuanian filmmaker, documentary filmmaker, which has already introduced before. I think many know his films. He has been working in this artistic, poetic way all his life and been very expressive, and now is saying that he doesn't have this tool anymore, if I'm interpreting this correctly. And Vitaly Vansky is also a documentary filmmaker and director of this film festival. Yes?
I would like to start from saying that, and this is what I'm 100% sure about, that Putin is not going to win. And this is absolute true. It's no chance, because it's a total nonsense that he is going to win. How he's going to win?
You mean historically or today?
Yeah, today he can conquer this country. But what is his end game? What? He will force 40 million people to...
20 years it's have been in Russia. Why?
Yeah, well, that's different. But that's different.
What's it different?
You cannot keep, because Napoleon said you can I don't know this in English word, but you can spikes on that they have. You can, the spikes are very good to fight, but you cannot sit for very long on them. He cannot sit on these spikes. How long he will keep this country occupied? How long? 1 year, 2 years? It never.
How long occupied Baltic Sea?
Yeah, but because that's a different time. It's a different country.
What's the difference?
Because we have historical memory. I don't think he cannot occupy. No, they will not occupy us. They can destroy our cities. They can kill our people.
You mean Putin doesn't have chance occupied again a Baltic state?
No.
No.
Impossible.
No.
Impossible.
I told you, possible.
No.
Possible. But in I don't know about Lithuania. I don't know about Estonia. I not bad know about Latvia. In Latvia, I personally know many people who live in Latvia and love Putin. You know how many people voted in Russian election for Putin in Riga, in Latvia. I remember we come with Natasha. It's I don't know. It's what's the election? It's fucking again election. Russian embassy. It's maybe constitution or I don't know about
the change of the constitution not allowing Putin to speak.
We come from airport at 8 o'clock. And we go by car on the Valdemara, and I watched long line to the embassy. People stay for voting in Russian embassy, and finally, in Latvia, in Chechnya, 97, in Latvia 96, or it's like this.
Percent of the
And one more. What Putin say before war in this crazy meeting in security Soviet in security councils? I speak not only with Russian. No, I speak with all Russian who live in the world, not who has Russian passport. Who speak Russian language for all of it's our Russian world. And just a second, you have time, we have time. And just a second. In Latvia, this moment, 10% citizen doesn't have Latvian passport, but have passport
alien passport. It's called non-citizen's passport.
And this 10%, I don't say about everyone, but usually it's Putin army, and these people stay on the bus with flour, bread, and I don't know, and say hello.
No. Each country, of course, they have those who would, and also in Lithuania, this will happen the same. But look what happened in Kharkiv. It's a Russian city. The majority of population is Russian. What happened? They are fighting like lions.
Wait. Okay, come from, I don't know, from Rostov region or from Donbas region and stay in front of the government building with this bread and soul and say hello. Wait. Not Kharkiv people. It's come people, come. And for picture, for documentary, make it images. Kharkiv citizen say hello, Russia.
But this we already know. We know this media lie propaganda. We know this, and we have to. This is this narrative that we have been fighting for, and we have to. That's fine.
I think Vitaly is provoking. He's a film director. It's provocation. I know.
Okay.
I hope you think much more positive because.
Actually, I want to ask. Drone just came from Norway, and you know Norway very well. How does it look from that very peaceful, rich, and how to say calm? What are people saying? What are they?
Well, we also have a border with Russia, of course, and we also have a history of maybe being the country in years that actually have a best dialogue with Russia in the north about the common things like fishery and security for vessels and stuff like that. But everything is stopping now. All Norwegian companies are withdrawing. All of this Arctic cooperation is put to rest. So Norway is now on a minimum kind of dialogue with Russia. And of course, you could also say that being in this very nice bubble in the world, I think Norwegians also are afraid, of course, that things are stirring up here, like we were when you were getting your freedom, that actually this will evolve to a larger conflict and a third world war. That's, of course, the underlying fear we have. But I think overall, I would agree also, of course, Putin will never win this in the long term. The darkest, the kind of view of the future would be that we have a new president, Trump, back in America in some years, and they kind of withdrew from the NATO cooperation again, and we are on our own in Europe. I don't think that will happen. If that happens, that could be the worst kind of case scenario. But I do believe that when I tell my mother every day, when I speak to her half an hour in the morning, that we are equally safe here in Riga as we are in Oslo. And I believe that, actually. Equally safe and unsafe, of course, if the worst things happen.
What's about public opinion in Norway?
Public opinion are basically like in Latvia. I think we have, of course, like everybody else, thought that Putin can never be this mad. Norwegian media, Scandinavian media, but I think especially in Norway is not that oriented towards the Baltics as Sweden and Denmark and Finland is kind of throughout history. So we have kind of don't want to know so much about the details of what's going on. But I think underlying people has kind of understood that it could end with this, because the classical dictator has his kind of there is a kind of same logic to how it evolves in their lives and how it ends. And I think people have been thinking this for a long time, and so this is kind of the proof of this. And I was ashamed for a couple of days when we said we wouldn't send any weapons. We had to wait until Finland, actually, and Sweden first said they would, and then Germany, and then, of course, Norway also called. So the public opinion, I think it is where it should be.
Okay. I also had a question for Ilse. You made this film, you made together, you as a producer, you as a director, My Favorite War. This is about your childhood in growing up in Soviet Union, and this is reflecting of this. Why did you wait so long to make such film? Why did you make it now? I just want to know.
Well, I started to make that film 10 years ago, and I have to say thank you to Vitaly, who screened the film in Moscow in Artdocfest last year. I'm really grateful because that was the chance to meet the audience in Russia with that narrative. And to make that film was very hard because it's not animation, but because it's a look back on what happened. And, well, how to start? I was all the time proclaiming that this is an anti-war film. Why you are calling it My Favorite War? It is because the Soviet system wanted us to love the idea of the war. And that's an actual thing today in Russia. How they brainwash children to be lovers of war, how to make a narrative where children relate to it as something heroic. You build up an identity where you identify with something positive and what happened in history when you make an image of the winner, of the hero, and that is the World War II. And that was my message in the film, how we were taught up to love World War II as a positive happening, and it's not a secret, it has been known for years, that was the one thing which could unite the whole big Soviet Union, or the one idea how we have something in common, the idea of winners, the idea of the good ones. We are the side of the good ones, and painting this picture of the evil, of the Nazis, of the enemies, of everyone else there. So that was explanation of the title, and that was kind of throwback to the system where we were trained on the one side on the history, how we were trained to love the war as idea of the good one. And then there is this other aspect of the 80s in my childhood when we were trained to participate in the military education and training for the upcoming war. And then just very small innocent thing to this Labor Day of each profession, and like army and military as a profession, we all know the February 24th, the Army Day. And what we were doing in the Soviet schools, we were marching. We were showing how good we are in marching and shouting cadences and singing war songs in the rhythm of march. And what does it do to your brain and how you relate to be a little soldier. So I wanted the world to know how it was, and that's how I made this animated film. And from the other side, it took a long time because everybody wanted like this, you know, joke scenes. How funny it was in the Soviet childhood with all those funny things.
Who wanted?
Like broadcasters, of course, who are buyers, who pay for me to make this film. They all want to be this funny thing. And I was very stubborn, and I wanted to tell, no, you know, I want to implement those stories from the World War II. And that was a very big challenge because the stories of the civilians were actually what happened in Kurzeme, in my region, in Western Latvia, was kind of the kickstarter of my idea. I wanted to tell what happened to civilians, not the armies who are glorified, but what does it to everyday people. So actually that was a very big challenge, how to unify all those stories from World War II into that narrative of the Cold War. So I wanted very much to balance it. In those war stories, and to say, no, the Russians were bad to us, or Germans were bad to us, and for us, the victims again, because nobody loves the victim. But I wanted to show that armies are armies, they are made of people, and in that film, actually, I was looking for the stories, how to make, to show that it's even.
Yes, thank you very much, Uldis. You co-produced a film by Ksenia Hapkina, Immortals. It's also telling actually from the different modern day Russia this angle how already from the kindergarten. I will never forget this last shot that there is like this film. Have you seen this Immortals? That there is like this. That this discourse is totally like it was in Soviet Union, even worse. And then the last shot is the kindergarten when the kids are sleeping in their beds. And there's this one eye, and you just understand what this kid will have in real life.
It's Grand Prize Artdocfest.
You will never seize the moment.
Of course.
Cool. Yes, how has it been any impact? How this narrative has spread somewhere? Because we are actually talking very much about that these narratives that we are having here are very, very different from that people in Russia are getting. And how does it spread? Or
actually, this frame, what you mentioned, is the maybe only positive image, is hope, because we think that child will know what's happening, and the dog, the barking dog, because they are just two shots. All the rest is quite quite heavy and always true, because this is more, I can say it's anthropological film. It's what's really happening there. But it's very good how you started this with that message, what could happen. Don't paint it negative, because I think now we are all documentary filmmakers, but it looks like a fiction scene. But in Russia, all the big brands leaving, IKEA, Shields going away, and this is like documentary. This is for those people there, I think, for those who live it, saying it's something going on serious. And I think this is this fiction, which looks like fiction but is reality, is a signal that adds a hope to the better end. And also, we made another film, Ukrainian Sheriffs. You know, always with documentary filmmakers, we have so many films, and as a producers especially, because directors have maybe less. But you need to remember your protagonists. They become your friends. They become your family. Especially for them, we become much more family than they for us. And we need to remember, and then when all this happened, before it was after the film was made, Roman bought a new car for sheriffs, and not new, used, but much better than previous one. And he said, okay, now they're fine. Now I understand, oh Jesus, but it's between Crimea and Kherson. They are surrounded. Just in the first day of war, I tried to get, what's the mobile number of Major? And then it was not answering. I said, oh bad, they called Daria. Please try find, I cannot reach them. It's another number. Okay, and then in the third day I reached Viktor Maronyak, the major. And I was surprised. In this very positive, very brave voice, he said, we keep. They're just 20 kilometers from us, but we keep going. We already know what to do. We know what to act when the связь, the connection will be lost. And then but actually, how is connection working? Because I just called Viktor also 2 hours ago. And he said, I'm also surprised, but it's working somehow, but they know how to react. And then I said, Victor, I feel so sorry that I can put the signs, some colors, we go to demonstrations, but I want to help you practically, because I feel a little bit guilt to myself that I cannot act properly. And he said, stay calm. That's what you called me, is for us a big strengths that you are with us, and we discussed with him that let's establish those private connections we have as a filmmakers. Let's give a little note. They are busy now doing their own stuff, evacuating their parents, etc. But he said, this is what you're calling now is good, and don't worry about this, because I said, I want to transfer you. We collected donations, etc. We don't need it. No cash machine there. No shop, we just go to the river, because there is no products anyway. But they have a river, so they reorganize stuff. And he said, and imagine the people, even those who've been somehow not torturing, but like sheriffs. Some drinkers are there, but everyone became now like united, and they put from cellars the compote, and because there's a kindergarten, the children, orphanage, and they need to feed those children. So everyone is united, and also not much work for sheriffs to take an order anymore, but actually to organize how it goes. So this is what I think now, as a filmmakers, we need to keep connected with our friends. And he said, yes, of course, when this shit will be over, then we will use your money, of course. So just wait with that. And it's so cool. It's so, and then I also became kind of more in peace, because I was a little bit, feeling my hands are too short. How to help them?
I really like and appreciate your positive attitude. This is always like sprouting out this juice. But a little bit coming back, yes?
No, I have a question. A little bit perpendicular, this discussion.
Okay.
Again, about film Akhapkina. Immortal. It's anti-Russian film, anti-Russian propaganda film. Yes, it's true.
I don't think it's anti-Russian propaganda film. It's film about truth. It's
about.
And she studied it's anthropological.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And what we do with this film now, in situation blockade or say sanction.
I can answer. The first thing I made, I called to Riho and I called to Latvian TV, put this film on. Because, as you said, there are many people here, and some is watching Latvian TV. Put it on, and maybe make some short speech by Ksenia, because I called also Ksenia first. Said, Ksenia, is it okay with you? Because, you know, we need to protect our guys. And for Ksenia, she also goes to some demonstrations. It's so brave, actually, to be Russian in Russia and to demonstrate. It's equal, almost. And she said, no, put it on, because she said, I'm crying every night, and I cannot do also. And so with Riho, it will be on Estonian and Latvian TV, as we already do it fine. They changed the finding a way. It's also good that, you know, it's a public broadcaster. They have some slots, and then they have those news slots, which are, of course, extra, but to schedule a movie, it's a little bit tricky. So they put in, because what I also think nowadays, still, we speak, and now this, our friend and your friend Hertz Frank said, the language of heart is our language of poetic documentary. I don't think we don't need to use. This is a very strong tool. The language of heart can tunnel, I think, and make it correct. But we need to use it in a proper contemporary way to make somehow cover right, that those who need it or those who are somehow in between, that they watch further and then see the stuff. But we need to make a little bit different, maybe editing. Or I'm not a director, but that this is this point.
I just feel you're right. We need to find, but this is something that it's not just a small change in the in the style and how to make to speak differently. It's a tectonic break. It's something. It changed the world. What is happening, and the world needs a new, not a new style, a new language. It needs a totally different approach to everything what we did before. It's the world. I think the world before this war and after, they are two different worlds. So what I feel, so far I cannot find till now my language. I don't know. I need some time to understand how should I speak with this news in this new situation. And you mentioned, that it's good that they said, oh, it's a big support. But I'm afraid to send this message, we support you, to my Ukrainian friends, because I feel so bad about that, because what does it mean we support you?
No, exactly. And I'm also afraid to use their time, because I know they are much more busier now and they're getting so many messages. Of course, that's true. But with major, I think for them it was really important.
That's good.
And if we need to speak with those who we know are not so much connected with the outside world. That's I think.
But it's Russian director. It's Russian director.
It's a Russian director. Yeah.
You mean for Immortal? Yeah, of course. Yeah. No, I switched to ships.
No, I know in Lithuania this would not happen, and because they would say immediately take out. I remember it was a retrospective in our cinema, and immediately they just canceled the screening of Kira Muratova because they thought she's a Russian filmmaker, and they made afterwards. They made this apology. So we are very sorry. That's Ukrainian filmmaker. But just the name Kira Muratova, and it is out. Of course, this is what happened. What war does also with us. Then we are just blinding us. And yes, you're right. I think this to show this film is very important, also for us, also for our audiences. But we spoke with Vitaly in the park about that. I speak and I feel I am contradicting myself many times. Because I don't know the answer.
I want to involve also, don't wait for the words, you can also step in. Svetlana and Nora, there's this case, they are here with the film Island, or Lost Island in English, but in
Ostrov.
Yeah, so it's actually a very beautiful and poetic film, which is shown here in festival, but somehow with this war, it has received very much of different perspective. I think
But it's not only poetical film.
It's not only poetical. Okay, then elaborate. Say what it is. Say what it is, and what does it have for meaning? And
Yes, it took a completely different, it became something completely different, our film, because, I mean, when we met in 2015, I settled again in Moscow. I've been living there in the 90s. And then the first thing that struck me is the atmosphere. It completely changed. It was another country. And I could feel that a new kind of ideological wall was being built between Russia and the Western countries.
When was it?
2015.
2015,
because I moved
after
back.
14.
Yes, I moved back. I mean, I've been in Maidan, of course, in Ukraine and so on. And then we started to discuss, and Sveta found this incredible place, this island on the Caspian Sea. And after researching and understanding that the people were living like a little bit in a close community, having only one source of information, the first channel of Russian TV, it was like, wow, this could be maybe a metaphor of what Russia is becoming. And then many aspects came around this idea that we discovered filming on the island. And today, the most crazy thing is that Russia became this island that we've been filming. The whole Russia, definitively. So the metaphor became true. And this is just something incredible, because we were just thinking that, okay, this is towards the Russian inside the country. And it will never come out, but now it's Russia isolated, and like you say, we understand that an era closed, a new one started, and I mean, I don't really want to use the word, it's maybe too much, but it's almost like we're heading towards a kind of war of civilization, in the sense of different values.
I want to quote one thing, sorry Svetlana. We have theatre director Alvis Hermanis, who in the first day of the war that broke out, posted in the Facebook, I will quote, I have written it down so that it doesn't. So he has he says that in this difficult situations, sometimes in theatre they use the dope as like a kind of God's eye or alien's point of view. The project concept of civilization based on its values is both for the Chinese, Americans, Muslims and Russians. The Europeans don't really exist anymore, but let's say they are chasing the Americans. Then, well, the Russians, along with the cunning Chinese, have decided to block themselves and create their own Eurasian civilization, probably even isolating themselves from the rest of the world and becoming self-sufficient. A deliberate decision to protect themselves from the viruses of the outside world that they believe threaten them. That could be their long-term strategy before the new Iron Curtain was built by hand, taking their own from Ukraine wisdom, like insane. And Taiwan is already preparing. The post was bigger. I don't know if I have, but it's public, so I'm quoting. So this is this kind of view from this helicopter or alien that it actually talked to me very much. So they're like this. We are in this global world, considering that people, we have this common information space, and we are like this, and there's this concept of these different civilizations, and it straight to me went to my heart, because I have lived in India for several years, and my husband is Indian, and I really know that this is different civilization. But I have to say also that when I was living in India and I was touching with the authorities and something, I recognized this style immediately. It was from Soviet time in my blood. There's like a lot of similarities, and in this aspect, then maybe it's bold, but I immediately understood this civilization, this clan system, which is opposing this European rules and regulations and equality, tolerance, and the clan system is totally different built society. And I was just wondering if you have a comment on that. Maybe in Russia, really, this more the Asian, the clan system is the one that is ruling, and they will never. How to say, it's just different concept, and we don't see it because we are in the same color. And now I'm also quoting a little bit Alvis Hermanis.
Just one paradox, very short comment, that sometimes we say people, Europe or world is afraid of World War III, but actually the World War III is already going. Actually, what we should be afraid is World War IV, the nuclear war, but the World War III is already on full scale. It's all the world is involved. It's not a single country which is not involved in this war. So the war is going.
The fourth one is the collapse of the Russian Federation in different identities, and then who will control the nukes?
Yeah, and
This would happen if everything collapses inside the country. This is just
we are next to them. We're just on the border with them.
Yeah, we are close to it.
I was just thinking when we saw it also with the Iron Curtain, when the Soviet Union ended, and we came out of this Iron Curtain, and we met with the others of the world, and as in your film, we have been grown up in this. Also, this brainwashing system. I just wonder what will be then slowly this. After the first immigration wave, slowly the Russians will start to squeeze out this new iron wall, and being brought up like this, it's just it's totally different narrative. The story. Values, like what is black, what is white, the total opposite, and this is what will make it extremely difficult to communicate, because they will not understand why, for example, Europe is like they are not served in the restaurants or something.
Yeah, but this is what's happening in all the world. This is this postmodernism who said that there is no black and there is no white and there is no good and there is no evil, there is not a bigger truth, everyone has his own truth, and now we have the result of that. We never said this is evil and this is good, and because everyone said but we can have different perspectives, and now we have to do this. Now we are forced, but what is the price of that?
Yes,
okay, I'm thinking about our protagonists from the island, from Ostrov, and they became our friends, they became our family. And I don't know.
They are brainwashed.
Yes, they were brainwashed, but after some conversations, I think we changed something on this island, in their minds. But and we are staying in a very close contact with them. But from the beginning of the war, I didn't answer the messages of Ivan, because I'm afraid of this conversation with him. Ivan, this is our main protagonist, and I really love him. He's a great man, but I'm afraid of this conversation. But I see my goal, like a filmmaker and like a human being, to start this conversation with those people, with people who live on this island. We have to start this conversation, and I think somehow we can change this narrative for them. It will be very painful, because we have to left our, our nice bubble. When we are here, we have the same values, etc., etc. But I have to left this nice bubble, and I have to go. I want to go and speak with these people, with these Russians who support the war, who support Putin. I think I can be useful for them. I can be useful like filmmaker for the other side of the world. When I start to speak with them, and when I will try to understand them, and maybe somehow I can change something for them and in their minds. It's possible, because they are not monsters. They are not stupid. Okay, this is my message.
Yeah, Vitaly told me you have very interesting background, that you used to work as TV presenter for Russian television. Oh my God. And how did it happen that you broke out for yourself, or there was a certain pot was full or something? Can you tell a little bit about that?
But I left television, Russian television in 2005
or 6.
2006. Yes. And but even in that time, yes, I felt that something wrong there. I was so young, and I lost my colleagues.
I also work on television.
Yeah, I know. And
Come on. Yes.
And you know, it's maybe I want to understand, I want to analyze this phenomenon, how my colleagues were changing during this, 10 years, because 10 years ago I could speak with them, even if I had another opinion. I always had another opinion. I never Putin, etc., and I was very, I was free and independent, but I could speak with my colleagues who had another point of view, but now, yes, now I can't. And these are the same people, and I really want. These people are very good educated. This is not our, protagonists from this island.
Educated in which way? That's the question.
What happened with them, and why, and how was it possible?
I'm a little bit surprised by this conversation now, because I would think in Norway and in Western European countries, we tend to think that the majority of educated Russians do not support Putin. They kind of pretend.
This is a huge mistake.
Maybe, but I do believe that we have come to a point that Russians have to make to the decision finally, because like a classical dictator, he has kind of tied himself together with his people, going down a black hole, and they can choose to follow him down there, or they can choose to try to change things, because we can't do that from outside. They need also to think about it for themselves. I don't believe, or I think in the West, we don't believe that he is doing this because he's afraid of the West coming closer and closer to Russia. It's like in the Cold War, when I was quite a small kid, I was thinking, why are they afraid of us? What do we want from them? We just want them to stay away from us. So why should they be afraid of the West? We don't want anything from Soviet Union. And I think it's the same way, but I do believe that what the regime in Russia is afraid of is that Ukraine would start orientating in a more Western way. And in 10, 15 years, Russia would see that this is much better, this is another way we can go. And that is the real fear. And if that is the real fear, why do you need to do that if the Russians already are on his side?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, but I think there is much more behind that. For me, we come from small countries. For me, it's like a different category. You have the first Liga and the second Liga in football. For me, it's the same. You have the big empires. You have the countries that are just shaping the fate of the world. Russia was one of those countries. You like the way they did it or not, this is not the question. And then it collapsed. And believe me, I was living in Russia in the 90s. The humiliation and through what the people had to go was something tremendous. The same situation in France. We would have had a civil war. People taking the arms and slaughtering each other and so on. And somehow they managed to go through it and to start, to go up again. And today, we have to see this also a little bit. But what did the Western countries? It was like an open market. Everybody runs there and tries to take the best pieces economically. Bringing everything there and telling to the Russian how they have to sing, what they have to do, and so on and so on. Great, because this is the way our system, liberal, democratic, capitalism system is working. We need new market. We need to take new countries in order to work, to make more money and to make the machine working. And this is what happened also with Russia. But Russia is just too big. At some point there had been a reaction, and the reaction was Putin. The first years were more or less mild, and yet now we reach the upper level. When you have the way to say, hey, we are an empire, this is our position, and look, now we are going to defend our stance, our position, our politic, our value, and so on and so on. And the huge propaganda and everything what happened these last years inside the country, they managed to bring 70+% of the Russian following this idea.
I absolutely agree.
And this is crazy. It's not that I like this, but this is really what is happening. And then how are we going to fix that now? It's just too late. We can't fix it.
We can't fix it. My point is, we are saying that the mistake happened 8 years ago. I'm not saying it happened 8 years ago with Crimea, and everybody said, oh, sanctions are small, and we were quiet, and Putin tested the West, and he saw, if you do it, and the reactions are mild, then I can continue. No, the problem was 90s, because as you say, the market needed a new territories, they needed new money, new blood, and there was those funny Russian people, a bit naive, you know, like a circus coming to a new town, and you can, it's actually not a circus, it's something like Tivoli, or you're selling cheap things for big price, and especially what amused Western people was how funny Russians are, you know, you can dictate them what to do, but they are still willing to pay, and that was the mistake West made. And in Norwegian there is this expression of licking somebody's arse. So,
what was the expression? Flicking somebody's heart?
Licking. Licking. You know.
Okay.
So, the capitalism wanted Russians to buy and to sell cheaply all the big resources and so on and so on. And Russians, the last time I was in Russia was in '96, and they said, oh, you're coming to zoo because you want watch animals, and they identified not equal with the Western people. So I think this sorrowed pride of Russian people through 90s, when they didn't have any experience of democracy, not as long as we had had this sweet taste of freedom in Baltics, which made our ground why we were capable to build those societies here. They don't have it. They don't have, I don't know, 6 months or something of democracy, what Russia has in their history. The rest is just belief, the strong belief through the centuries that there is one person, one dictator, one Tsar, who will decide, because we among ourselves are not trusting each other. Russians know that. They are not capable to trust each other, and they are not capable to make a democracy. And that's why they need this one leader. And that was Vladimir. He made them to be proud of their country. And now we are facing those consequences when West was playing with him all the time, because he was the best guarantee for them, for their money, for their security, and for their markets. So I think for the documentary making, I think the war films is a very interesting genre. Because to make war as disgusting as it is, I would recommend anybody to watch Klimov's film, go and see. I think it's one of the best war films made. It's awful, and it makes you through the emotional experience of the war. And then you have on the others, and that's fiction. Why you need fiction? Because you need time, you need a distance of time. And then you have reportage on the TV. They are going all the time, and there are no documentaries because there's no this cinematic language packing in those emotions. So what's the war documentary in between? We have one kind, a lot of them in the world. So I think if the documentarists want to prevent war, then we have to make films about those things, about these causes, what cause war 30 or 20 years later, like 90s, and going to these very unpleasant questions, why people are as we are, because we don't like to admit to ourselves that we are lazy. because I can also support war by making wrong choices, by buying wrong things, mainly because that's how you vote in your daily life. You buy something and you believe in something. So I think the best war documentaries is to question those people who are isolated, but to document the events of the war. It's for me like more reportage making. And there is a nice example of Norwegian filmmaker Anders Hammer. He made a nice, strong film about the upheavals in Hong Kong. It was nominated for the Oscar last year as a short documentary. But you know, it's very much the pulse of the time. You don't get this feeling of the film, you get the feeling of reportage. And it's a bit looking news, just it's a bit longer news screening. So we are in the interesting position how to see the causes and reasons of war before it starts. And that's, I think, for the documentary makers is a big challenge, how to portray people.
You remember a final episode this film, Go and See? Final episode.
Yeah, the big montage.
Big montage. It's
when he's not shooting.
This hero stay and shoot for the portrait Hitler.
Boy.
Boy, yes, shoot. And then this photo Hitler come back, and finally child. Hitler,
on the
child.
mother's arms.
And this boy would do, don't shoot. It's for me question for this moment. For this moment, it's question. Putin also was a child. And what we do. We don't shoot.
I have been thinking a lot of how was he as a child? Why nobody sent him to the art school? If he would be a misunderstood painter, it would be easier to explain him as a Hitler, you know, nobody accepted his paintings. I don't know, but I would really like what it was, what happened, what was wrong, and does he really believe in himself as a savior of this nation?
No, I think.
You know,
Yes, he believes him a savior of his whole civilization.
I mean, this guy is not using internet. He's not using a smartphone. He's completely cut off to the reality for already so many times, and people are bringing him all the stuff that he's reading, thinking that, as you say, the Tsar, knowing what you want to read and what you want to get. So you are each day more and more and more in the kind of bubble, you know? Bubble, yes. And what is then, how do you perceive the real world? You have no connection with the real world anymore.
But then there is a beautiful film by Vitali saying that we all are Putin's witnesses. Yes. The one man can go mad, but the rest of society is step by step, like centimeter for centimeter, backing him. And that was the really strong ending of the documentary, showing faces of people and saying, we all are witnesses of his madness. We all are allowing him to do it. And now they're paying the high price, those poor people who are arrested in the streets protesting. Like, you know, if they had protested in, 2001, knowing what Putin will become when Yeltsin took him out of the hat. They didn't know, but they were kind of, as they're saying, step by step following him, and now they are there.
And that's, of course, also something that makes it scary, because I really think in the West that all have got it now. So it's unbelievable to think that he can remain in power with a new relationship with the Western countries. There has to be a change. I hope that will last. I don't think that will pass, but I think he's of course aware of the fact that he can be in trouble if he loses power. Going to prison is just one possibility. I think that's a strong motivation for any authoritarian or dictator in the world. Maybe the strongest one. That the thought of losing your power is a no-go. That can't simply happen, because then really bad things will happen to him and his inner circle. And maybe that's also the solution in a way, that you assure them that that won't happen for the best of the world. Because when the language gets really hard and on both sides, that's when bad things can happen in the end.
But bad things can happen then when he understands that he inevitably goes down, then is reaching for the little red button. Then how can we? I wrote to Anonymous, can you please hack the nuclears? Because they are asking, what are your suggestions? What should we hack now? Because I understand Putin lives in bubble, but I also, because my news that are coming into my Twitter and to my Facebook, they are quite positive, in a way. And I've been living in this bubble, and I'm fascinated by this content that these local people with their mobile phones are shooting these tractors that are stealing the tanks, and it gives me. I'm also waking up early in the morning. I cannot really sleep. I'm scrolling and then cool, yeah. It's like a little bit like this, but I also understand that this is this bubble. That even if I use internet, then it's not maybe the real picture that is, and maybe that's healthy to get some pessimistic view from Victor Kosakowski or from Elina Reiter, who are living, for example, in Germany and feeling the discourse there.
I don't believe he's living in bubbles. I don't believe that. I remember these fairy tales he said about Stalin, that he didn't knew about these concentration camps. I think, Hitler, I think he knows exactly what is going on around him. I think this is kind of... I feel it's like a little bit justifying what he's doing.
It's not justifying. I think when I talk about bubble, it's more about he's in a mental, bubble, believing in some kind of values and trying to make a third empire, Russian empire, getting back more or less what they lost after the collapse of the Soviet Union, and this is like the main.
But I think
the main topic, and everything, all the strengths and all the ideas and all the development that we can see is heading towards this main
I think he fanatically believes in his mission.
Yeah.
This is the only cause of all his activities, because there is no another.
Maybe there's some personality change when we are all consuming some cultural products, both films and books. And I have heard that he's reading so much these biographies of the ancient, kings and leaders or imperators, and there's like kind of impersonating in him maybe this kind of the things that we use, they change us, they influence us in a way, and maybe that's just the wrong choice of literature in a way. I don't know, or too much money paid to propaganda movie makers who are making these stories they're using and stuff.
I remember I listened to the interview of Gordon with Khodorkovsky. And Gordon asked him, what do you think? Do you think he planned this? Did he foresee what is going to happen? And Khodorkovsky said to say true, I don't give a fuck what he's thinking or not. I'm going to ask these questions, and he will be sitting in the cage in Hague. Then it will be interesting for me to ask, what you was thinking? And for the moment, I said, I don't give a fuck what he thinks and what he does.
What about these Norwegian terrorists who blow up this island near Oslo? What is it, Breivik? He's a little bit that type, no? This world-saving...
Believing in his mission?
Yeah, believing in the mission. He will never change during his time.
He's a narcissist, and this famous Norwegian writer also his books were called My Kampf. What's his name? Knausgård. He wrote an article about him, comparing him to Hitler, and he says we should be happy that most people kind of put their anger and hate into themselves and kind of destroys themselves instead of outwards wanting to destroy the world. So that type of people can do horrific things like he did in Aizritēja, or can become a dictator in the country. And I think really believing what they're doing, that's even more scary, because he's trying to get out of prison now. He could sit there for the rest of his life, because every second year now I think he can apply to get out. But he still is writing and believing in what he was doing. And I believe that the politics of Putin and those around him, especially this thing about America, been doing the same thing all through history and running everything. Of course, also in the Scandinavia and West Europe, we are critical towards America and what they're doing. Norway didn't join the invasion in Iraq because we kind of felt that it was a false premise. And so, but they drag it, of course, so far that it becomes absurd in a way, but that they believe it themselves, and there is a core of truth in it, of course. So just following that road for them, kind of, I'm not sure it makes sense, and they can find proof every day, all around, that this is the truth. What's going on, and also I think for journalists today and filmmakers, we need to be very accurate on what we're doing, because everything that is done wrong, if you exaggerate, tell some lie, or do something like this, it will be then turned around and said, this is the proof that everything is a lie anyway, and everybody is just out to speak about their own cause. Yeah.
But do you have some example of what is there some films that where filmmakers have not been very careful about this, that they have like done it and only later understood that, oh, this was like wrong? I'm to be honest today I'm following news mainly, television journalism, because they tell what's going on, and there are nuances all the time. I mean, in Norwegian media, they could say a sentence saying something like Putin is saying that there's a Nazi running Ukraine. They haven't actually said that. They have said that there are Nazi organizations sponsored by America that helps them keep power. And that they actually know that he is a Jew and he is not a Nazi. But small things like that in broadcast media can kind of make the wrong impression, and the impression that the audience already have. And that's a really danger in these times, that you have to be careful by doing that. Because in the end, then the other side can just say, look at what they're saying, they're just lying about us. So it's small things. In journalism especially, it's a really demanding thing to do this in everyday journalism also, but especially in times like this.
Can we control this process? It's impossible.
No, but this is a very important point, because I mean, this is a discrepancy between the news and reportage, documentary reportage that you do for TV, and the work that we do, working many years on a topic. We have a very concrete example now. Of course, it's all our countries are flooded by news about what's going on in Ukraine now, and the refugee and the war inside, and so on and so on. And then I contact the TV in Zurich and in Geneva, in France, and so on, saying, hey, we have a film that is really explaining this in depth, why we reach this point. And then the answer is, but we just don't have the possibility to show this kind of films, because there is the maximum that we can show is 50 minutes. And we cannot shorten our film to 50 minutes, because all the dramaturgy will be gone there. And then, of course, they have medial slots, but it's 11 or 1 in the morning, you know, and then they can broadcast it, but it will not reach the people, the masses. I mean, in order to have another perspective, a perspective coming from inside Russia, why did we reach this point today? And that's the main problem. But it's a main problem. I mean, it's the same with the literature. It's the same with music. It's the same. I mean, we are consuming and consuming and consuming stuff that are ready-made, that are quick, that are emotional, and so on. And then everything that is coming later, that can be extremely good, well done, and so on. You have no possibility. Festival, who is going to the festival? Let's be, I mean, cinema, I mean, we know it's just art house and all this kind of stuff, it's dying today. And
But this moment born new media, but old media don't possible work with new reality. And maybe we live just last 1-2 years with old TV channel programmer. But I a little bit come back to Breivik's story and about documentary. All of us know about last film Gers France, about a guy who killed Prime Minister Israel.
Yitzhak Rabin.
Yeah, of course. And this film also have big conflict about presentation this film in Israel. It's big conflict, but Israel society and Israel official government people say never this film, never present in Israel. And
I can add to that. You all understood, but it's not only when the film was finished, because in the last shots and actually Gunte's directress has provided us with some material which is not included. Hertz Frank in the hospital, when he's actually he doesn't know, but he will die in a few days. He's saying to his team, because he had a helpers team, like there was a girl director and camera, and he's saying, we don't do this film, we don't make this film. And the film is already shot. It's it's in production-wise, like my everything. And he says, no, nobody, the world will not get it, will not eat it. Like we will never be able to reach out with it. Like he said, he's spoken with producers in Germany. They said, cut it. Like this theme is like not possible, and he's actually begging and asking there, like, let's not do it. And he has already script. I have different thing in mind. We can, and they say, no, that's I mean, 90% already, 99% already shot. Like what is? And then Hartstrong dies, and they make it film, and you are co-producer or something like that. True. Why did you do that? Because the money was spent.
I mean, all the story have rights for the discussion. For open discussion about all question. It's my opinion, and also I mean. For example, many years I present festival Artdocfest in Russia, and of course it's opposition festival, but we sometimes present propagandistic film, especially for discussion. Not all propagandistic film, but every year 1-2 film, especially for discussion, but it's not my position to put голову в песок.
To put your head in the sand.
Strauss. It's not my position. All the discussion. And sometimes it's sometimes crazy joke. For example, you also been in Linz film festival. Linz, it's a town where born Hitler. And open Wikipedia. Never. Not Wikipedia. Yes, I mean look official information about Linz. Never Hitler. I stay in hotel where Hitler rent room, and it's information in Wikipedia. And I ask on the reception, which this room?
Very provocative.
On reception, no, it's not true. No, never. Never. I say, why never? No, never. I don't know. It's, for me, it's not a good idea.
No, it's a very bad idea. I think all stories, all truth, everything has to be told about everyone. In the end. If you're afraid of that, then that's a problem actually, because it will come back somehow. I think in the end you shouldn't be afraid of that. But of course, to get it out to bigger audience is always the problem. I agree very much what you're saying about we are in the end days of this linear television, where their power in a way is absurd, of course. In Norway, actually, on KINO, a lot of programs are actually seen more digitally in their player or internet than linear television, and it will be like that for documentaries, I'm quite sure. Then it's a matter of having a good redactor who can actually tell people, well, this is better, and to put the films there. So.
For example, my film, Putin Witnesses, show in cinema in Ukraine 2 years ago already. And interesting situation. In cinema, this film showing, and Nikita Mikhalkov, who small episode in film, blur face, but Nikita Mikhalkov enlist people who stop list in Ukraine. Putin, not blue.
It is also my reaction when the news came about the sanctions, and then like a big heroistic act was like in the second or third round, including Putin and Lavrov into the sanctions, because all the time the first steps were not involving them and never had been, and that was like super like presented as like something really big. I think that would be the first person who should be sanctioned. Anyway, I want to tell you, Vitaly, something which I actually have told you already previous year. There's some things that you as a Russian, even if you're living in 8 years already in Latvia, you don't see. And also for the festival Artdocfest, red color in combination with Russian language, which you actually used this previous year, it's not a good combination.
But that's red and white, this is Belarusian flag.
This is what he said.
Thank you.
He said, do you know that Riga also is having this red? But in this context, I think I'm ashamed to say that thanks to the Ukrainian war that we are witnessing the Ukrainian flag, this is so up a little bit, but this just, you know, you can tell to 100,000 people or whatever, to millions, that this that cross that Hitler uses, that actually this is an ancient Indian sign, and in Latvian folklore also prosperity or something, but there are some things that are fucked up.
Okay, we change everywhere now red color for the black color in social media, everywhere with the logo and so on. But I don't know, maybe we come back to red after maybe, but red it's not a Soviet flag. It's red. It's Russian Federation don't have exclusive for red.
Switzerland,
red also, and
the same I was just yes, but because of this war, I was telling you our previous discussion. For us, Baltic people, at least for me, when we heard this happen, we are immediate alert. We are not Western countries who are thinking like, I don't know, days and days, what is happening. This historical moment, just blood is just burning. We know everything. We don't need any explanation. We know what's going to happen. We know what's in that mind. Only we have not experienced such evility, you know, because in Soviet time I didn't experience the war. I never experienced that Soviet actually broke into somewhere. But
Afghanistan in your lifetime. They went into Afghanistan in your lifetime, but it was far away.
It was far away, and that is with some tribes that I don't know. But also we have also on there is a Facebook post by our art curator Inga Steinman, that she refers to things that we have never experienced, like in 1940 and 1941. Oh, that's how it was. That's how it was. This feeling that our parents, grandparents have been telling. That's how it was. That nobody predicted anything. Nobody had any kind of suspicious. We were living this just life, and that's how it happened. And this is directly coming in. I think it's don't need any explanation for that.
I have just to tell that what worries me is this my own narrow sight about Russians, that I believe in this legend that they are very committed to suffer, that suffering is kind of part of identity, and they are a bit like sadomasochists, just waiting for this moment to get in pain again. I dislike it, and I think it worries me also about all those sanctions, that it will unite them in the way the Ukrainians are united in their suffering, that now the Russians are put it in this position where they can say, yeah, no, it's true, we can prove the world hates us, and they will suffer and feel that they're doing something good for their motherland again. And that's something what worries me.
It will be used by the regime, I mean, everybody against us.
But
the narrative is already going this way.
But
That's absolutely, and this is extremely dangerous.
Yes.
So it's like topping and topping and topping, and it will...
It's more than suffering. You know, the cause of this is that your life means nothing.
Yeah.
Your life, your personal life means nothing.
Then it's something from religion, something like Muslim mujahids, or Vikings with Valhalla.
That was something different, completely different. That's a total difference, because that was a good thing to die, because then you had an afterlife, so it was kind of really interesting. But also in the Viking times, every man and woman was important, because we are not that many people. Coming from a small democracy, I always feel dizzy going to Germany, for instance. There's so many people, it's so large. First time I was in Asia, I was thinking, at the same time, feeling that life matters less here. You have a feeling about this, which is kind of strange to understand if it's even true. I don't know if it's true. How to rule such a large country with all those people, because when you kind of have more and more people, then is it true that every life matters less? Of course it isn't, but the feeling of that is hard to... It's a kind of dark feeling you can have when coming from a small country, living close to a big country, but is it really like that for the people living in those countries? Is that kind of to sacrifice themselves for the Russian Empire, the Chinese Empire, just to be part of something bigger? And yourself, it's hard to understand.
In Immortals, wasn't it in Immortals in this film? I don't know if you've seen it, but if you're not, then please see it. There is this the young soldiers are visiting this museum, or what it is, and they are presenting this like heroic act to die for your country. This is your martyr. You are this superhero. It is very much.
They're teaching it, and they kind of make them brave that to die collectively is even more
bigger. Yeah.
So, I mean, this is really dangerous, and I think that's why we thought this film is not very important. So, where the roots come for this army who has no face. Yeah? They don't have face and no idea. No.
Yeah.
But you're going to go down. You should somehow turn it to some vector up.
And so for the final, because from our company, the most positive man is here. Please. say the finishing words. We are coming towards end our discussion.
Some hope.
Please.
But how many days still Artdocfest? 4 days. Just come and see the films and decide yourself, because I think that's what we need to do. Again, coming back to Immortal also, there is no moral. What director Ksenia wants to tell. You just watch it and then you decide, and the film really was spread widely. Coming back to Sheriffs also, you remember ending of Ukrainian Sheriffs? I watched it day before yesterday. And it ends with the man on the tower, and he says something.
Of course, yes.
And it stays like, you put your electronics on standby mode, which is the very dangerous mode, yeah, what you said. Or you switch it on and off, but the Sheriffs ends on standby. And it's so clever, but maybe too philosophical and too clever to wake up the West. And that's why I said the big science being released, that I think Russian people still starts, yes, everyone is against us, but from the other side, everyone, Eritrea and North Korea maybe are only friends. Do they really?
I'm sorry to say, but India also.
Yeah.
Yeah, but let's see.
Because all weapons are Russian-made, and they are dependent on it. The whole defense system is produced in these Russian weapons.
But what I wanted to say that really, I think that's why film festivals and movies could make a crack in the wall. And in the world also, it was just misspelling, but I think both. And it's not pathetic, yeah? It's we're not promoting ourselves. And coming back to the topic of this seminar, yes, I think non-linear stories, this is the future, non-linear. Because the journalistic approach is just shown linear or informative.
From the beginning to the end,
yeah.
This is linear, and non-linear there's like...
But the strength is, what I learned from audience also, in a clever way to make a flashback and make a viewer make his own forward thinking. This is the trick what we can use, that our audience will decide by themselves. And that's why I think cinema is still very important, and we need to do it in parallel.
I can say something optimistic if you want.
Yes, I really would like
to. Being one that have grown up as the maybe most happy childhood in the world in Norway. This could be the it had to happen eventually, because it's not only Russia's fault, of course, it's also the West, like we have talked about already. It had to come to a point that we kind of have to change the whole system, the whole world, also capitalism. So now we go after Russian oligarchs. There are more oligarchs in the world we have to go after, Swiss banks and tax havens, and we have to change the world. There's many reasons for that. So maybe this is the raw and brutal beginning of that, because changes often happens really hardcore and not over time. We need to really wake up, and then some positive things will come out after a while.
Too happy childhood.
A lot of work in Switzerland talking about these topics.
The time is over, but you can say if you want to say.
I have another question. What we do, for example, Polish film, balcony film, we present in competition in Riga this moment, and I'm not crazy, but I little bit believe present film in Moscow after 1 month. But Polish Film Institute call for us and say, we don't present film in Russia, any film in Russia. And we all understood why. We are Artdocfest Russian part present your film in site Novaya Gazeta in January, and I mean it's very it's very good idea present for Russian audience your opinion about your experience, about your life, about your criticize this system. And now, what we do now? What you present your film in? No, any film. You.
If you
know what
invite
happened,
us,
you know
yes.
what happened with those.
No, Polish guy. It's my big friend, and call me and say, I love you. I love festivals.
An institution.
But we have decision never in Russia.
You mean if tomorrow we have to show the film? If tomorrow we are invited and we get yes, we do it. Of course. I mean, this is a very dangerous moment now because it's also happening in our country. Like the European Cinema Academy wanted to boycott all directors from Russia. What is the
It's crazy. No, it's another question. Now I ask about European film. But I remember my childhood time. Every night I switch off radio and Voice of America, and I read this handmade Archipelago Gulag and so on. And it's.
I have suggestion. You were listening to this Voice of American stuff, and internet still exists. I mean, for Russians. Tell them to hack, like whatever they do, they have to find themselves like you were finding Voice of America. It was not offered to you.
Yeah, but look, you are going there, you're presenting your film, it's beautiful festival, very progressive, but still, you are presenting for the audience, so business as usual, nothing happens, right? We are showing their films, we are going Q&As, but I want to, the message has to be very, very clear, no. This country has to suffer. Because they are in the war, as Vitaly said, everybody is guilty. And I love Italy, I love this festival. I would never go to Moscow.
Oh, it's a difficult question, but people.
I'm sorry.
Because, but my parents still in Russia, my friends are still in Russia. They are not my enemies, and I want to present them my film. I want to discuss with them our
so many
I want to give them my message.
I invite you watch this film after 30 minutes, and maybe you change your opinion. I don't know, but it's film about Russia before war. It's Russia who every day, step by step, go to war. It's about this
preparation.
Yes, about this. Как это сказать? Почва, в которой вырастала.
Ground where to grow from.
Блин, я более поэтически по-русски говорю.
There are millions of Russians today in Russia that are not agreeing with what's going on.
Yeah.
What do you do with these people? You sacrifice them as well, and then you put these people through suffering, joining the other 70%, then you have 100% that will fight back?
No, if I would have a chance, like I go to cinema and said, those supporters of the Putin, get out, and those who do not support, stay. I cannot do this.
Yes.
And I don't want to speak with these bastards who support me.
I believe after film Fuck the Job, for example, I believe people go on the street, but it's manifest for killing this power. I believe, really.
We need to speak with these people.
Yeah. We need to continue the dialogue with these people. It's very important.
Yes, this is the power of the culture, and I don't know.
I agree. It's also like when you heading towards a big conflict or war, then all the nuances are gone and they are just taken away one more. A nice thing happened in Norway, I think it was yesterday. We're boycotting everything, sports, everything. The only organization, as far as I know, that said no was the Pen Club of Norway, saying that Russian novels should still be available, new Russian novel and literature. And they will not go back on that, hopefully, because you need to have dialogue. Of course, you need to have dialogue. But it can be made into wise decisions of not this, but this. Of course, that's a little bit harder to do, but we need to kind of work hard these days to make the right decisions.
What do you think about that? You present?
Actually, it was the first day of the war, because we wanted to make a project, and one in Latvia, the Russian director wrote me email that probably we need to put it on standby because, you know, now things going on and I'm Russian director, maybe not the right time. And so they immediately wrote him back that, "Guy, this is the right moment that we need to do something together." And Ksenia was, in Moscow with the film. So, I think because part of our mission, I think, is to convince those, if they buy a ticket to your festival, okay, there are some provocators, but you're not afraid of them, because you're quite no problem. But I think maybe 10% are those who are in between. And if after the film you don't know that, then I think this is part of our mission.
If the message of your film is clear, you have to show this film.
I especially say about Voice of America, I especially say about handmade literature, what I read in my childhood. It's my university. But
it's your university because you were seeking it. But there are a lot of people who are not seeking it. They are just waiting.
We start for this changing.
Yeah, that's why we kick them in the ass and start thinking. This is the
I will also use the example. We are always staying at your aunt place in Moscow.
She lives in Moscow,
and she's consuming, the first channel of Russian TV all the time. And so we have almost no contact. And after 3 months, we arrived in Moscow. We sit together, start to eat and drink something, and then it's like making a huge reset. Bringing her something from the other world, our world, and then she starts to think a bit, and after 2 days, she's like, yes, definitively, there is a problem here, and here, and here, and here, and here. And then you understand how important, it is to have this connection and to continue, and to show films without also...
I feel guilty, I would feel guilty. Now that people are killing, and the Ukrainian filmmakers and actors and people and children are killing.
But it's not these people concretely. These people are also hostages from a situation.
Who?
To a certain point of
Russians.
Some people. Also people believing.
We made it not for my aunt. She's an old people. Okay, it's not important for me. But I made it for my niece, who lives with her. And now this young girl, she participates in protest, and...
No, but that's fine. The Russian filmmakers, of course they have to speak with their people. Of course they have to make films. Of course they have to show. I'm not saying that the cinema should die and nobody should speak. But I cannot do this at the moment when people are dying in Ukraine. I would never go and never show films until this war is over. So this is very clear for me.
Okay.
Then let's finish the round. Ilse?
About what?
No, the show Vitaly's question.
I think that it's hard to have a dialogue because there is statistics saying that you can't persuade people, they have made up their opinion from before. But I think that, of course, there is worth of try and to talk to people. If you can agree on the conditions that while the dialogue is going on, and we respect each other, and we give time to make arguments and tell the arguments from each side, and not getting emotional, as I have only imaginary dialogue with people in Russia who disagree. And okay, if you go down to the question to show film in Russia or no, it's a hypothetical thing, but I am like, my favorite word is the latest film I have. If I would be hypothetically invited to Russia to show it, I would say yes, because I think it's healthy to bring some other perspectives into the people. Maybe they will just be like all those hackers who are mailing me and saying all the bad things about me and my film. Maybe, but there is still a possibility to show other opinion. Cutting out the dialogue, then again you're giving them the truth that the world is opposite to you. And you can still love Ukraine with all those pain that we feel in us right now. But people in Russia, I think they need this little glimpse of hope that we will understand them. If the world will not be blown up by the nuclear war at the end, then people in Russia, they need this small hope that there is hope for them too in this planet. If we are going to die, all of us, then it doesn't matter.
But if I can add, because I understand Audrius, I know him very well, and not because of you are my friend, but we would never give our film as a child away without knowing where it goes and with whom it goes. Because Russian propaganda, I think that the public relations are super professional. They can turn your
words, yeah.
And that's why with Roman we had the same as sheriffs. We really protected it to bring in Russia without proper context. And same as Russian film showing in the West. Because there are many festivals that don't understand the tricks they can play with the films. And that they can put 5 kind of very artistic, cool films, but 2 could be pure propaganda what they want. So this is what we need still. We need to be aware. We live in the 3rd or 4th war. So that means we are in the forest with Diki zveri around, yeah?
Yes, I agree with you. And you know, our film, for example, was invited to some Russian festivals, the biggest Russian official festivals, and we said no. But yes, we are with Italy, we are with Artdocfest because, yeah, I believe in this festival, and this is our church. I don't want to present our film, you know, on Russian television.
At any cost.
I see one interesting nuance. After annexation Crimea, every year in Artdocfest, coming very conservative audience who attack cinema with Ukraine film. Really attack. It's not poetical. It's really
aggressive.
Ну, просто вырывались, обрызгивали химикатами зал, ОМОН, там просто война была. Война была. И что они говорили? Что они говорили? Мы не допустим на нашей земле украинское кино. Любое. Не делаем ли мы чуть-чуть то же самое? Вот я хочу...
I'm sorry, maybe I'm speaking about my own films, because I never made a film which would somehow help to change people's minds. I'm doing poetic cinema, and maybe this is not the time to show and to entertain people with the poetry during the war. So maybe if I would have a film that I would strongly believe that would really touch the heart, maybe change minds, maybe I would speak differently.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I understand you. Yes, I agree with this. Yes.
No, of course, it's a major question now also. But we don't, it's not a good idea construction wall between people and doesn't have chance people for changing. Of course, it's not my idea present entertainment content for Russian citizen who kill. I am born in Ukraine. It's my motherland. But stop discuss with people. Don't help these people. It's also a big mistake. It's also a big mistake.
Dear friends, thank you.
Thank you.